has to do with the god Apollo. Okay, so sun god, right? Fire god, if you will. Um, Agora is the word for like a public gathering or a marketplace. And so I think back in, what was it like? Well, both 2001 and 2003, I visited Greece, and just outside of Athens, they have what they call the ancient agora. There's the modern one too, but it's like a bazaar.
Right.
But the ancient agora is, it was a really powerful experience just walking through because for the most part, it's been reduced to rubble. I mean, we're talking about something that was built in 600 BC, really old. Yeah. For the most part, it's rubble. But I don't know if you can see my feet, but you'd get these like bits of wall that are still standing, just about that high, maybe a foot high or whatever the case is. And you can walk around and you can sense what went on there. And you would think, like Agora, okay, marketplace, going back to the original conversation of level 6 of the astrolabe, wheeling and dealing, gaining loss, bartering, all of those types of things. But that is not the radiation there. What the radiation was there is a level 4 aspect. Because the idea of exchange and money and purchasing and all this sort of thing was the neutral vector for the aspect of being able to share something electrically with somebody. And so the idea that Pythagoras was the god Apollo who appeared amidst the ancient agora has this connotation to it, has this idea of you're going into a holy place when you're going into an agora, where you have this electrical exchange with other people. That's the only way I could add it up because it just didn't feel like they had the modern agora, modern marketplace, and there's buskers and people selling silver. They love to sell silver. People selling tapestries and meats and foods and all this type of stuff. I mean, it's very just feels like I mean, it's yummy. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's hot. It has a hot radiation to it. It's very gain and lossy. I mean, if you don't go in there and barter and haggle and that type of stuff, they know right off the bat you're American. Yeah, they know. Like, Americans don't barter for anything, do they? Right? Or at least not very good at it. Sometimes they'll experiment with it, but just not good. In any event, that was hot and staticky. The ancient agora felt like holy ground. I had to like figure out the reason why. Because for 2,000 or 2,500 years, tourists have been tramping through it, and you would think that it would have lost that signal by then. More of level 5 intellectualism at the very least. But no, it wasn't like that. If you ever have the chance to go and feel it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. But going back to Pythagoras, he's often accredited with the idea that numbers are qualitative, not just quantitative. In other words, it's not how many beans you have, but if you have 5 beans, it means something different than if you have 3 beans, or 4, or 2, or 12, or whatever the case might be. Okay, so that's one of the most fundamental things. Now, he didn't get it from there. He got it from Egypt, Pythagoras of Samos, but he's legendarily anyway, traveled to Egypt. And it's pretty obvious that things like a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which I believe is the Pythagorean theorem, they must have known it in Egypt because they couldn't have built the kinds of things that they built without understanding it. Yeah. So anyway, he grabbed it from there, brought it to Greece, and that's the thing. He brought to the Western world, which pretty much had its origins in Greece, and then Rome took it, and so on and so forth. But he brought this idea of numbers being qualitative instead of just quantitative to the Western world. And this is where we get things like numerology from. And one of the fundamental aspects to it is that odd numbers, he figured, because he did this, what's it called? The tetractys, right? It's where you get, I'll draw it for you real quick so that you know. You get one dot here, two, 3, and 4 dots. It's called the tetractys. Okay, and everything you ever wanted to know about numbers and numerology is in this. And it's 10 digits, for example, or 10 stones. Get some petals, lay them out in this tetractys. And try and learn to say the word tetractys better than I can, because it's not a very natural word to say. But anyway, the idea was that you have male and female numbers, for example. This has to do with all, we'll get there, okay? We'll actually do a whole thing on numerology and numbers, but I want to give you just a couple of examples today. But yeah, there's male and female numbers. There's positive and negative numbers. I'm not talking about like -10, but female. Also that kind of balance and interplay. The odd ones, you figured out, are masculine inclined, and the even ones are feminine inclined. Now, I'll give you a real quick example of this. In the human genome, you have 46 chromosomes. You say, wait a minute, Pierce, it's 23, but no, it's 23 pairs. All right, so you've got the two aspects, the male and female aspect of each of the chromosomes in there. 23 being a positive number. If you take apart the sperm in the zygote, or actually the egg before it's that, they only have 23. They're both masculine. And now we can go back to this aspect, which is here, right? Both of them, they both have 23 chromosomes. When they merge and form the zygote, then it becomes 46, and that's what makes you. Yeah, but you are it goes from hot and dry, right? Positive and positive, in other words, 23 and 23, and it combines down into this one. Okay, so you've got the, are you with me so far? I'm teaching you how the laws work, yeah? When you get these two positives come together, they actually create two negatives. This is the balance and harmony of the universe. When you get these, and it's the only cells, right? The sperm and the egg are the only cells in the human body that have 23. In the case of the egg, so that it's protected while it's in the female, because every female is born with every egg they will ever have. They don't manufacture them, right? It will shed 23 of it so that it becomes foreign to the female. Yeah, males manufacture it basically daily, a couple billion or whatever the case is, sperm. But so it doesn't need to be that way. It can already be masculine, because the human complex, being with 46 chromosomes, all of us from that standpoint are female. It's an even number. All right. So do you see how this works? It goes from 23 down to 46. That should tell you something about how the laws work. Did you know a positive and a positive becomes a negative?